Happy Friday, beautiful people. Happy Friday. It is September the 30th. It is the last day of the month. Time flies. It's September the 30th, 2022. Day 226 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1244. We're picking back up in the book of Judgment. I decided to do these. Clearly, we're doing it in parts, but I'm labeling it in parts. That's what I'm gonna start doing with everything. I mentioned it before, but I just recently started doing it. So each chapter in a book of Oahspe, although it's the full reading from beginning to the end in one playlist, in separate playlists, I'm gonna do different books. So this goes to 2 playlists: the full list with all the books and the book by itself, Book of Judgment. I just now recently started doing this with the last 2 books. Eventually, I'll probably do one every day till I get myself caught up with the playlist. And when we read it over, the new ones will go into the, I don't know, maybe I'll do year 2 playlist, Book of Judgment, because coming around the second time reading it, it's going to have way more revelation in the second time we read it versus the first time, because the first time clearly we're just trying to get the story in, the basis of everything. And even though I'm adding stuff in now, it'll be way more when we read through it the second time. All right, y'all. So on page 672 is where we left off at on in chapter 7. So this is where we will begin. Father, we thank you that you are the revealer of all hidden mysteries and those laid out in the open. All right, y'all. All right, beautiful people. Mom, shalom, shalom. Auntie Belinda Brown. Good Friday, Vinette. Greetings, Ray. Hi. Kindred, shalom, Shebrew. All praises to the Creator. Shalom, Jehovah's children. Hana, peace and blessings. Anita, greetings. Set apart, grand and blessed rising. Global purpose, grand rising. Then they over on Facebook. Shalom, sis. And everybody else hanging out in the background. All right, y'all, let's get started. All right, chapter 7, page 672. A man may be wise as to books and philosophy and mathematics and poetry and great learning, and yet be low in grade as to spirit, right? We know some people that's so smart they don't, right? At least that's how we see it. A man may know little of all such knowledge and may be poor withal, but by hardship and exercise, develop in sympathy and good works done unto others, and be high in grade as to spirit. Let me read it again. Let me just start over at 1. A man may be wise as to books and philosophy and mathematics and poetry and great learning, and yet be low in grade as to spirit. A man may know little of all such knowledge and may be poor withal, but by hardship and exercise, developed in sympathy and good works done unto others, and be high in grade as to spirit. So also may it be with spirits that manifest through you as great orators, who stand even in the lowest grade in heaven. Let not thyself deceive thyself, O man, as to thy knowledge or thy speech or professions. Thou hast the scales in thine own hands, and thou shalt soon or late weigh thyself justly and take thy place, even as thou hast prepared thyself. Right? That's good. Let me read that again. He said, we hold the scales. Weigh yourself accordingly, because sooner or later, you're going to have to get in where you fit in your right place, right? Look, verse 4, page 672, chapter 7. Let not thyself deceive thyself. You only fooling yourself, right? Sooner or later, truth going to come out, and you got to take your rightful place. Let not thyself deceive thyself, O man, as to thy knowledge or thy speech or professions. Thou hast the scales in thine own hands, and shall, soon or late, weigh thyself justly and take thy place, even as thou hast prepared thyself. Nor flatter thyself that thou canst cheat heaven or change the ways thereof, nor hide thyself behind doctrines or behind the promises of gods or saviors. Old things are done away, and none of these shall avail thee on earth or in heaven. Be thou king or queen, judge or servant, the same judgment shall stand upon all. When the garment is gone, and the diadem and the riches and the flesh withal, consider thou the grade of thy spirit and the bondage upon thee. We can turn this back over to the dirt, this flesh. Where do you stand? Let me read it again. Verse 6. Nor flatter thyself that thou canst cheat heaven or change the ways thereof, nor hide thyself behind doctrines or behind the promises of gods or saviors. Old things are done away, and none of these things shall avail thee on earth or in heaven. Be thou king or queen, or judge or servant, the same judgment shall stand upon all. When the garment is gone, and the diadem and the riches and the flesh withal, consider thou the grade of thy spirit and the bondage upon thee. Thou shalt take that for which thou hast fitted thyself according to what thou hast done. Chapter 8. Page 672. Hear my words, O man, and be considerate of the justice of thy Creator. These are my exhibits which I place before thee, that thou shalt not err. And thou shalt be a rich man and adorn a city by donating unto it a park with a statue. With hold on, let's say this word right. Statuary. With statuary. Okay, I'll read the whole verse again. And thou be a rich man and adorn a city by donating unto it a park with statuary and pleasure walks, hoping to glorify thyself thereby and be praised by men. Therein thyself burieth thyself in the first resurrection, and the act lowereth thy grade instead of raising it. Okay, I get this. You know how and you see it everywhere you go. Like you go to museums and you see these donators and they give them like either a plaque or a stone built into the wall, some silver, some gold. You even go to churches, they got the donation board. Those people that want to be recognized, right? They got their names, such and such is at this level. Sometimes they even go as far to tell you as what those levels are, right? To better pat you on the back or make you feel some way about yourself because you gave at this level. And people walk around, hold on, I'm a gold member. Don't talk to me that way. I'm like, get out of here, you and your fake gold. Look. So some of them, if you give between $0 and $25, thank you, and you get this bottle of oil. You give from $26 to $1,000, you get something else, maybe a prayer shawl, something like that, or a pen or a calculator. You give a little bit higher, you get like a silver plaque. Then you get like what's first, a bronze, then maybe silver, then platinum, maybe gold, or however they do it. And then you have those that give like the ultimate gift, like over $100,000 or $1,000,000, and ain't no telling what they get on the wall, plus free access to wherever it is they done donated to for a lifetime. That's what this talking about. And thou be a rich man and adorn a city by donating unto it a park with statuary and pleasure walks, hoping to glorify thyself thereby and be praised by men. Therein thyself burieth thyself in the first resurrection, right? Yeah, you still got a whole lot to learn. You ain't going no higher than the first resurrection. And the act lowereth thy grade instead of raising it. So you having the direct opposite effect on your spiritual grade when you do these type of things, especially when you're doing them just to gratify yourself, right? Because most people that do that, when they're completely selfless, they don't want any kind of recognition whatsoever. Nobody will ever know where it came from, and it is truly anonymous, right? I won't know. They may have, and giving to a cause is not wrong, but when it's like, hold on, where's my receipt? Because I need to write this off. What type of okay, let me keep track of this. You lowering your spiritual grade. I can understand for business purposes, whatever, but for real, let's be for real. You lowering your spiritual grade. You really want the praise of men to show them how well you're doing and what you've done, right? For in whatsoever thou givest, thou shalt consider first the lowest of the low, whether they have bread to eat and a place to sleep, and the sick, whether they have attendance and good provision. And thou be a rich man and contribute to a house for orphans or for the helpless and aged who cannot help themselves, it raiseth thee in grade. But so far as thou doest this for the applause of men, thou detracteth from the rate of thy beneficence. Neither doth such a good work help thee more than the poor man helpeth his own grade by assisting one poor orphan. For thy resurrection dependeth not on the quantity thou givest, but as to whether thou givest according to what thou hast, of which matter thou shalt judge thyself. For he who giveth a penny may be raised up more by doing so than he that giveth 10,000. And after 10,000, after 10, it's a reference number 8, and it says at the bottom, 8, 10 times 10,000. All right, so go back up to, I'll read verse 9 again. For he who giveth the penny may be raised up more by doing so than he that giveth 10,000. A certain rich man, being converted from the desires of the earth, went about casting his money freely in the streets and in giving to those who asked him therefore. And after giving to those who, after who is reference number 9. And 9 at the bottom says whosoever. Okay. A certain rich man, being converted from the desires of earth, went about casting his money freely in the streets and in giving to those who asked him therefore. And some gathered it up and fed and clothed themselves. Others took it and went and got drunk and became worse than before. The measure of righteousness of that man's behavior was not in giving what he had to the poor, but in the good and evil that came of it, being weighed as to which outbalanced the other. And where he lowered the grade of them that received his money, oh, snap. Listen. And where, oh, look. And where he lowered the grade of them that received this money, or where he lowered a greater number than he raised, there his act of casting the money away was a judgment against him. So you know how we're talking about how sometimes we can help people or we can keep giving to them, but instead of helping them, it has the opposite effect. It actually enables them to continue being worse. This is what this is talking about, right? So before you give your money, at least from what I'm understanding, right? Let me read this again. The measure of right, let me see. Let's say, okay, 10. Let's go back up to 10. We'll do the whole thing. A certain rich man, we're on page 672. A certain rich man, being converted from the desires of the earth, went about casting his money freely in the streets and in giving to those who asked him therefore. And some gathered it up and fed and clothed themselves. Others took of it and went and got drunk and became worse than before. The measure of righteousness of that man's behavior was not in giving what he had to the poor, but in the good and evil that came of it, being weighed as to which outbalanced the other. And where he had lowered the grade of them that received this money, or where he lowered a greater number than he raised, there his act of casting the money away was a judgment against him. Okay, so I know this kind of keep going a little bit, but let me share this real quick. What I understand and an example of this. Okay. So before you just give your money away willy-nilly, right? You should consider those who you're giving it to. right? Now I know time to time you may see people on the street. We talked about that, right? But if you know, let's just say family wise, let's just use family for this example, right? Say you have some family members who are struggling, right? You got some family members that struggle because it's true that they're going through this learning curve. They're learning, they're trying to get better, they're getting their finances under control. It's just they're learning how to work out their own finances, on what's wise to spend money on, how to properly triage expenses. Should I pay my rent or pay my cable bill first? If you pay your cable bill, you just gonna be paying it for the next people that come in there. Pay your rent. You can get the cable later, right? Triage in the order of importance. You need shelter, right? Shelter first. Okay. So if you're constantly, all right, babe, love you. If you're constantly giving to somebody that's constantly tricking off their money and you know this about them, then the money that you give to them, if they take that money and go trick your money off too, that's going to be held against you, because you are able to identify that they are just not good with money. And you can see that, thank you, Glory, don't cast your pearls to swine, right? And that can be used on the flip side, even with wisdom, right? Because fools will not take wisdom and apply it to their life, right? But as for money, if they take the money that you give them, like, look, sis, I need to go pay this bill for real. Can you just help me out again? I know I said I wasn't gonna ask you no more, but can you just help me this time, because I'm really behind. And you give it to them, right? After the first time you give it to them, you go visit them and they power out. You gonna start wondering, I know I just gave her money to pay her power bill. And so you may not say nothing right away, but some of us may, girl, why your power out? Didn't I just help you? It could be one or two things. Maybe, because I've seen this happen too. Maybe they did pay it, but maybe they paid it too late to where now the power company requires the whole amount, and the money you paid is just, you owe this anyway. So get the rest of it and get it to us, and then we'll cut it back on. Or they don't want to trick that money off somewhere else and then put it towards the power bill, right? Hence, they living in a dark house, right? So if you know that about somebody and they don't normally do what they say when they get what they ask you for, it's wrong of me, and it's going to be counted against me to continue to give it to them, right? Now, I have a sister. I'm sure she don't mind me sharing this. My sister Alicia, right? This was many years ago. With me being the oldest sister, you got younger, sometimes, not all the time, because sometimes you have younger ones that are way more mature, especially in their finances, than some of the older ones, right? So when she asked me money for a couple of times because she borrowed something. Now I'm of the habit, right? My uncle taught me this when I was in the military, right? Because once I got in the military, that's when I started seeing more money than I had like ever made, right? So he said, listen, he said, Pam, this is what my uncle told me. He said, listen, I know you love family and you love to help. And he said, just remember this. When you're about to loan money to somebody, he said, think about it first. Don't be so quick to just throw your money away. He said, if you can't afford to just give it to them and like not think about it again, don't ever loan it to them, right? He said, because things happen, they have good intentions, life happens, and sometimes they just can't get caught up, and then they start ducking you, and it causes the relationship to kind of have a split. He said, so to bypass all of that, you kind of handle that from the beginning. So if you're going to give without ever expecting to receive it back. Now, you don't have to tell them that. He said you can if you want to. He said, but you don't have to tell them that. He said you can test their character the first or the second time. And so that's what I did. I took that and I applied it to my life. So if we can't, and my husband, we can do this now. If we can't afford to just give you something and not expect it back, like, because if it's our last, that would be foolish to give it to you. And especially if we give you our last trying to help you and we done found out you done tricked our last off when you said you really needed it more than what we did, right? So we use wisdom. And so what I started doing, my sister asked me a couple times, and then I asked her, maybe like the third time she asked me, like I said, this was years ago, when she was like just out of high school. And so I asked her, nope, put it back. I said, let me ask you a question. What did you do with your money? And she said, well, And she's like, that's a good question. Because she had just got paid. She said, well, and she started naming off a little stuff. And she was like, well, I said, so you had the money. You just tricked your money off. And she was like, then I said, so you want me to give you my money so you can trick my money off too? Well, I was going no, because you had a job and you knew you had to pay this. You tricked your money off and think nice sweet Pam gonna come give you her money so you can take care of your responsibilities. No, right? Because if I give you my money, 9 times out of 10, what you show me is you gonna trick my money off too, and you still gonna be in the same predicament. So no, right? Look. And she said, Pam, I promise. Right. But she learned from then. And ever since that day, many years ago, my sister has gotten her priorities in order. She just closed on her house yesterday. It was yesterday. And I ain't gonna say she's the only one I can trust. But it's a couple of family members that I can really trust where if they ask to borrow something against their own hurt, they will always give it back to me whenever they said they would, right? But sometimes you just got to test some people, right? Some people, some family members that I know, even a couple of friends, right? I'm gonna test you. I'm gonna just to see if you're gonna keep your word, right? And then when I find out that you start ducking me, because let me tell you something, don't nobody forget they owe you money. Don't nobody. You don't have to remind nobody that they owe you money. When they start ducking you, you know that they know that you ain't paid them yet and you thinking about, or they think you thinking about it. You may not be, but every now and then to come up. And they just like, and they feel like I ain't got it yet, so I'm just not gonna talk to them until I get it. That's probably one of the worst things you can do, right? At least, even if you didn't want it tricked it off, at least try and keep your word. Right? But like, listen, I know I said I was gonna give it back to you on Friday, but I mean, don't come make an excuse. I might let you get away with it one time. And this may even be where when I gave it to you, I really wasn't expecting it back. I just really want to test your character to see if it's somebody I can really trust for real, right? So a lot of times all you really have to do no, son, move. No. So a lot of times really, even if you really haven't been tricking it off and something truly came up, and that really does happen, right? All you got to do, just be a man or woman of your word. Listen, I know I said I was going to give it back to you Friday, and you know what? Here it is. Here's the $200 that I borrowed from you. Here it is. And even if you have to ask for it back, but at least show enough enough integrity to give it back the day you said you get it back. Because I know you get paid today. Everything ain't, you ain't got everything automatically hitting your account, although some people do, right? At least give it back. And then you can ask for it right back, right? I may or may not give it to you. I'm just saying, to pay me back when you say you're gonna pay me back. That's the whole point. But the whole point is, for real, if you look at somebody and you say they already struggling, a lot of times, especially this will happen with children too. Older children who really trying to get their footing in the world, even some that's been out there for a while, that is truly just throwing all caution to the wind about everything. They just, you got an extra $100. You acting like you just asked me for an extra $3, right? I'm like, what do you need? Now it's like, what do you need it for? Then I know you get paid on, what did you do with your money? And it's like, is you gonna give it to me or not? I'm not. Get out my face, right? And it's like, you have to learn how to be responsible. And this is exactly what this is talking about, because if you just keep giving to them, you enable them to continue being vagabonds and just good for nothings. And they not going to be able to get their life on track. They not going to be able to handle their finances, right? And it's going to lower their grade. And you're helping them to lower their grade by constantly feeding into their foolishness and not holding them accountable, right? So even if they walk away from you, at least they know when they come back to you, they're going to have to give a full report what they done with their paycheck. And they may need to bring receipts. I don't believe you. Show me your checking account, or show me your checkbook if you keep a checkbook. How many people still really keep a checkbook, right? I realize that's something that we cannot do without, right? That's how we got our finances under control, actually keeping the checkbook for our business and our personal, right? I kid you not. Because the world of conveniences today have you swipe, a little fee here, a little fee there, and these little fees add up. So it's like, we didn't gave the bank like an extra $500 for nothing, just for being silly with our money, right? Okay, let's read this again. A certain rich man, being converted from the desires of earth, went about casting his money freely into the streets. This man, he just been converted. I guess he just like, okay, I'm gonna be on the righteous road. Freshly converted, right? Rich man. A certain rich man, being converted from the desires of earth, went about casting his money freely in the streets and in giving to those who asked him therefor. And some gathered it up and fed and clothed themselves. Others took of it and went and got drunk and became worse than before. The measure of righteousness of that man's behavior was not in giving what he had to the poor, but in the good and evil that came of it, being weighed as to which outbalanced the other. And where he lowered the grade of them that received his money, or where he lowered a greater number than he raised, there his act of casting the money away was a judgment against him. Jamia said that has always been the way I handle borrowing money. If I cannot afford to get it back, I cannot loan it out. I freely give wherever I can. I know, right? It's one of the best ways. It's freeing, and it's one of the best ways to save relationships. It really is, because everybody has good intentions on paying you back, right? So we're just gonna take the ball out of your court there, even though I haven't told you, And sometimes when people go to give it back, man, don't worry about it. Go ahead and keep that. And they be like, well, I was really, no, go ahead and keep it. I was really just testing to see if you was gonna keep your word to me, right? And so, but yeah, but I would say learn how to do that, right? So you can help all people, and they'll think, and those type of people, they'll think twice before they come to ask to borrow something from you, right? Because they know that you're gonna hold them accountable, and it's like they're not gonna come to you unless they're truly, really in a bind, right? And then they always you'll keep their word and do what they said they were gonna do, right? Okay. Verse 14, page 672. He who giveth, saying, Here, thou beggar, doeth a good corporal act, but an evil spiritual act. He lifteth up with one hand, but injureth with his tongue. And after tongue is reference number 10. And 10 says, but knocketh down with the other. So you're helping up with one hand and you knocking them down with the other. Okay. Excuse me. He who giveth, saying, Here, thou beggar, doeth the good, or is like, take it. That's what it's an exclamation point. He who giveth, saying, Here, thou beggar, doeth the good corporal act, but an evil spiritual act. He lifteth up with one hand, but injureth with his tongue. Such an act detracteth from the grade of that man. A certain rich man, being converted to do good works, went and built a score of soup houses to feed the poor gratuitously. And all the poor people of that town went therein and were fed. But the next year, behold, there were twice as many poor. And the rich man built another score of soup houses, and they were all fed. But the next year, there were still twice as many poor people to feed. But the rich man had exhausted his means and could feed none at all. Judgment is therefore rendered against that man for his supposed benevolence. Oh, I can see why now, just reading over this previous one. And after benevolence, supposed benevolence, is reference number 11. And 11 at the bottom says beneficence. And so verse 18 says, For whilst he did a little corporal good, he did a great spiritual wrong, because he lowered the grade of manhood and womanhood in those that he fed. His benevolence promoted dependence. Well, I just gave you the answer. I was about to ask y'all, why do y'all think that was so? Matter of fact, let me ask y'all, why do y'all think that was so? Yeah, because let me look ahead real quick, because it's going into another example. Why y'all think that was so? Let me read it again. I'm gonna read the whole thing again. And why I'm reading, y'all like type. Okay. Verse 15. A certain rich man, being converted to do good works, went and built a score of soup houses to feed the poor gratuitously. Or rather, let me say this. When you figure out exactly why he lowered the grade, can you read that and tell what he could have done to actually help them rise in grade to where you get what I'm saying? By him building these soup houses, like doing the same thing he did, what could he have done differently with feeding these people that would have caused them to rise in grade? That's what I thought about while I was reading this. If anybody know, type it out. I'll read it. I'm gonna read this again and I'll come back and look up. A certain rich man, being converted to do good works, went and built a score of soup houses to feed the poor gratuitously, and all the poor people of that town went therein and were fed. But the next year, behold, there were twice as many poor. And the rich man built another score of soup houses, and they were all fed. But the next year, there were still twice as many poor people to feed. But the rich man had exhausted his means and could feed none at all. Judgment is therefore rendered against that man for his supposed benevolence. For whilst he did a little corporal good, he did a great spiritual wrong, because he lowered the grade of manhood and womanhood in those that he fed. His benevolence promoted dependence. Okay. Okay. Look. Okay. Tabitha, this lesson on the rich man giving away money remind me of the story where Jesus told the rich man to sell all that he had and gave it to the poor, right? Anita said, because he didn't teach them. There you go, right? And I think everybody answers coming in the same. Anita said, because he didn't teach them how to feed themselves. Set apart, it made them not want to take care of themselves, but to take handouts, right? Gloria said, teach a man to fish and he can eat every day. Ray, build houses for them to earn. Okay, Ray, I was you hitting more to what I was going to. Vinette said he made them dependent on the free meals. Yep. Jamia, heavy stuff. Mom said, or Vanetta said, he did not teach them to be able to feed themselves, right? The exact answer I was looking for. Auntie Belinda Brown said he could have hired them to build and then hired them to serve others. Yep, Tabitha gave them a job. That's exactly how he could have prevented them from becoming, I'm gonna be nice, dependent upon him, right? Gave them a job, right? If a man don't work, he don't eat. So if we got free food, let's go to the free lunch, free dinner, free breakfast. And if they always know it's there, they just gonna let everybody know, look, it's free food over here. What? Come on from under the bridge and from your boxes. Let's go eat this free food. Then we're going back to our bridge and our box. That's how it kept doubling over the years. But if you let them know, listen, you get your first meal for free. We're gonna feed you, but we want you to pay it forward, right? So we'll feed you. And I would like, because I had thought about doing this, I would even set it, but you got to be really careful, right? And you really got to have that all under control. Like something my mom always say, instead of giving a hand out, give a hand up. So in this case, instead of just giving a hand out, he could have actually given them a hand up, right? You fed them the first meal, maybe even the second one, right? Even the second one, just depending on their state of nutrition, all that good stuff. Make sure they got strength. Okay, now you help us to continue to feed those, right? And so it helps them regain dignity about themselves. You're teaching them how to put their hands to work, and then while we're feeding others, you don't eat until after everybody else has been fed, or however you want to set that up. Because sometimes you get jokers, they paycheck early, they want to leave early, right? So let's get the day's work done, right? And the money as I began to pay you, right? If it was that case, and he actually made it a business where he employed them, or instead of, because some places they have it where you just volunteer, right? Okay, however, right, as long as you're getting them working for what it is, and they're actually helping to get themselves back on their feet, right? As you start making money, these meals are no longer free to you. You need to pay for your own food, right? Because we're trying to get you what you call it, what's a functional person in the community. That's what I'm looking for, right? We're trying to make you functional so you can get back out there where you no longer need our help, right? Yeah. Say la shalom. What's up, brother? Okay, but yeah, that was good, y'all. So but yeah, that's what I was looking for. He could have gave them a job right there. They get out there, and now instead of just being fed, they can join in the ranks and help them feed others, right? And so, but people who don't really want that, they'll realize, like I said, you give them 1 or 2 times and they realize, oh, I gotta work. Then you can actually begin to sort out those who are truly having a hard time in life and those who choose to have a hard time in life. Like, I don't want to do nothing. I ain't working. It's them people you can, by doing this, you can sort the people out and they'll stay away. Oh, I don't want y'all soup anyway. It ain't got no flavor to it. You don't even season it. I don't want your soup. And they start talking junk, walking away. But like, brother, you can have all the soup you want. You join the ranks, help us feed those. Why I gotta help? Like, it's them people we weeding out. It's them very ones that cause trouble in the house. They rebel against the rules, which is probably why they butts is out on the street, because they don't want to follow nobody rules. They don't want to be held accountable to anything. So by doing this, you raise your own grade, but you also help raise the grades of others and not enable them to continue to be lazy bums. Okay. Right, I know. Set apart Jehovah is awesome. This teaches wisdom. It really does. Okay, I'll read it one more time. We'll keep going. Okay, we're on page 672, chapter 7, verse 15. A certain rich man, being converted to do good works, went and built a score of soup houses to feed the poor gratuitously. And all the poor people of that town went therein and were fed. But the next year, behold, there were twice as many poor. And the rich man built another score of soup houses, and they were all fed. But the next year, there were still twice as many poor people to feed. But the rich man had exhausted his means and could feed none at all. Judgment is therefore rendered against that man for his supposed benevolence. For whilst he did a little corporal good, he did a great spiritual wrong, because he lowered the grade of manhood and womanhood in those that were fed. His benevolence promoted dependence. That's so good. A rich man founded a place of labor for the poor, who had nothing to eat and nowhere to sleep. And he said unto them, the Creator hath given you hands to work with. Come ye, be men and women. And they went and worked and earned their living. Judgment is rendered in favor of that man, for he raised the spiritual grade of the poor. This is a benevolence that extendeth into heaven. And after benevolence, here is reference number 12. And number 12 at the bottom says beneficence. Okay. Verse 24, page 673. Let thy charity be to the sick and helpless, but be thou wise in directing the able bodied to help themselves, right? So which I can truly understand why at this phase in life and earth life, the progression of life, where all saviors and gods and all these other deities are being done away with, right? Because earth has developed to the point to where we're now we can perceive and understand spiritual things. We've been cultivated up to this point. Like, we can all tell, because we can hear the Father speaking to us. We get direction. Now that the human race is at this point, which is called Cosmon era, there's no more need for these deities and these saviors, because now we're able-bodied, right? And we can do it ourselves, which is why they have to be done away with. Why? Because if we just take a look at those who depend on the gods and saviors. They make them dependent upon them. Jesus, take the wheel, is a perfect example. Oh, Jesus coming back to get me. Jesus gonna handle it. I'm gonna say a prayer, just rub it off, and it's gonna be handled. I'm gonna just go ahead and keep on doing the foolishness I was while Jesus take care of it. Absolutely not, right? You're descending lower and lower in grade by being dependent on something that's never going to happen for you, especially in this time. That time has passed. We are past that, while people are still waiting for Jesus to come help them. All right, son, love you. Be safe. Look. 21. The Creator hath given you hands to work with. Come ye, be men and women. And they went and worked and earned their living. Judgment is rendered in favor of that man, for he raised the spiritual grade of the poor. This is benevolence that extendeth into heaven. Let thy charity be to the sick and helpless, but be thou wise in directing the able body to help themselves. For all charity tendeth to lower the self-respect of the receiver and casteth him lower in the grades in heaven. Right? That's something everybody we can see that, right? Cosmo and Cap. Shalom, brother. We can see that, right? Which is why when you look at men, well, I done seen a good bit of both. Some men just will not allow you to help them, right? Because it's their dignity, and I wouldn't say ego. It's their own self-respect, right? They say, no, don't get it to me, but you got something that I can do, but I'll cut your grass. You got something that you got a leak or something. I know I'm good with no, let me not say that. That could be taken a whole nother way. I was about to use a plumbing example, but let's not use that. But y'all get what I'm saying, right? They're like, nope. And some people, some guys, like they have a hard time. Like I said, they say we'll work for food, right? Okay, give them a chance, right? Show up here, this address tomorrow or whatever, and you work. It Labor Ready does it, right? I'm not sure if it's called Labor Ready where you guys are at, but it's like the daily hiring place for people, and they pay them daily for the work that they do, right? So but yeah, verse 24. Let thy charity be to the sick and helpless, but be thou wise in directing the able body to help themselves. For all charity tendeth to lower the self-respect of the receiver and casteth him lower in the grades in heaven. Certain ones depend on alms, not having either sickness nor yet strong bodies. Nevertheless, were they aroused, they could support themselves, right? You might be in a wheelchair, but your hands work fine. I got some data I need you to input. Can you help me with this? And I'll give you a paycheck and I'll pay you fair wages for what you do, right? I even change where you can become proficient, where you don't have to work for me. You can get a better job, something that can pay you good money, right? Like seriously, like all these things. Listen, day labor. Okay, even that. It's called day labor in some places. Okay. All right. Verse 26. Certain ones depend on alms, not having either sickness nor yet strong bodies. Nevertheless, were they aroused, they could support themselves. When thou givest them regularly, they depend upon thee. And after upon is reference number 13, and 13 just says on, or they depend on you. Okay, when thou givest them regularly, they depend upon thee. These become beggars in the lowest grades of heaven. That which thou givest them accounteth against thine own grade. Better is it for thee and for them that thou arouse them from their degradation. To do this tenderly and mercifully is a great virtue. To do it cruelly is a great crime, right? So that's something we have to learn like day by day, right? Because you can't talk. Not that I think it's good to talk down to anybody at all, even the people that come work for us, right? We've learned the art of speaking to people nicely. My husband know men that he got to be a little bit firm on, because we do get some of those guys out there that are in this shenanigan category. They just there, but we can tell that they work for other people that just kind of let them skate off, and they suck. We call it sucking the clock, right? They'll go off and they'll kind of piddle around. Where my husband, like, okay, he'll keep our guys in charge. Okay, make sure you keep an eye on them, because such and such is skating off or taking too many smoke breaks, and you really only work 4 hours of the 8 that you were here. You're going to get 4 hours, right? So when they realize that about us, and you ain't going to be here sucking our clock, we will send you home first, right? Or we'll call them. We do not want Jesse back. We don't want Jane back, because we hire men and women, right? We'll give them a warning first, and after the warning, and the warning is not cruel. My husband like, come on, man, what's going on? You tired? This. My husband he'll do it in a nice way. He'll kind of be on them, but not so much where the person feel like he breathing down his neck, but we got a job to do. We want you to be productive out here. And a lot of them don't know that if you work good, because we're looking for good, solid people we can hire. We turn over a lot of people simply because of their attitude towards work. And we can tell you literally just here to get money for today. You have no responsibilities. You must not have a family or anything, right? So them people we just kind of weed out. And out of all these people we done went through, it's about two that they'll stay, they'll come, they'll do what they're supposed to do, and they'll actually they'll treat it, although they're temping for us, they'll treat it like it's their permanent job. And we've really had two, maybe three so far to act like that, right? And we don't really ever tell them, right? Some of them know. They said we're working for that blue shirt because our uniform shirt is blue. They said we're working for that blue shirt, and they serious about it. They show up every day. They ask, hey, are the Murphys on the board today? Are they hiring anybody today? They need anybody for their projects? And the temp people, they call us the was a couple of them that we use. They said everybody is looking for y'all when they come in here. It was like, nope, they didn't request anybody today. Well, when they do, can you put me on the list? They didn't even, I don't know how they did it. I don't know. We don't mind. And you know what? I know how they got it. I just thought about it. Because when they come out to the job sites, I'm like, they didn't even got our cell phone numbers to where they sending us text. Hey, y'all working this weekend this week? Can we get on the ticket? So but when they do get on a ticket, they need the phone number, the point of contact, and our number is up there. So that's how they got it. We supplied it. Not that we mind, but they know we not just taking people that just going to give us any kind of thing, right? Because when you come out here, especially when you put on that blue shirt, you represent us, right? And not just us, but our family. This is how we've been living for, like, this is how we support our family. We can't allow you to put on a blue shirt and you get out here and do what you want to do. We ain't gonna let that happen. I'm sorry. We work too hard to get where we at, right? And if you want to work with us, we'll teach you how to fall in line with what we require, right? And we help them, right? So we know everybody not gonna work with us forever, because people that's worked with us and we'll help you. They want to change or they want to get further. They want to open their own. We'll actually show them how to do it, right? I mean, we're not here like, no, you can't work for me. You stealing? No, we help them raise themselves up, because people who have the mindset to start businesses on their own, they're not going to be with you long anyway. They're always thinking about how to get out there and do their own thing. So when we see that, we actually help them, right? Make sure you got this in order. Make sure you get a good CPA. File your taxes on time. When you get employees, do not pay them under the table, right? We help them out so they can get going. Some of them listen, some of them don't, right? But that's something that we've learned, right? And so definitely you definitely have to learn how to talk to people. You have to be able how to know where your people are. You just have to, what's the word? You have to like have discernment and foresight, right? And everybody that comes work for us, we treat them like they're truly a part of our family, you know. So but there it is. I definitely would agree with this, right? It says on verse 29, page 673, chapter 8. Hold on. Verse 28. That which thou givest them accountest against thee, against thine own grade. Better it is for thee and them that thou arouse them from their degradation. To do this tenderly and mercifully is a great virtue. To do it cruelly is a great crime, right? Because you can tell, even if you can tell that when you talk down to a dog, how the whole demeanor of the dog changes. His tail go between his legs. Like you don't want to do that to another human being, right? I don't care who it is. Men talking to men, women talking to women, men talking to women, women talking to men. It's a terrible thing when you see it from the flip side, a woman talking to a man and he doesn't have enough strength or wherewithal on his own to stand up. He literally tucks tail and runs. I mean, that is a horrible scene to watch. Okay, so we have to learn how to get control of this and how to deal with our brothers and sisters in righteous ways, right? That help build them up and not tear them down. To do this tenderly and mercifully is a great virtue. To do it cruelly is a great crime. Consider not so much what thou shalt do to raise thine own grade, but what thou can do to raise the grade of those within thy reach. Remember, all men and women are thy brothers and sisters, and thou shalt labor to make them make themselves a glory unto the Creator. That was good. I love this book of Judgment. Malachi, shalom, brother. Listen, chapter 9, y'all, page 673. Where we at? Okay, chapter 9. Remember thy Creator and the magnitude of his creations. Before him thou art but an atom, and as only one small creature. Nevertheless, a multitude of people make a nation with cities and hamlets. These are also graded by thy God according to the ascendancy or the declension of the whole. If a city, then the grade, if a city, then the grades of all the people shall be summed together in the scale of 100. And if a nation, then the grades of the cities and the hamlets and of people of isolation shall be summed together in a scale of 100. And if half the people are above grade 50 and half below 50, the grade of that people shall be 50. If 1/4 only, then the grade of that people shall be 25. Okay, so the cities are graded on a whole basis, not individually. You have individual grades, but if we're grading a whole city and only 25 out of the 100 is at 50 and the other 75 is at 25, the grade of that city is 25, right? Okay. And if I read verse 5 again, I'll just go to 4. If a city, then the grades of all the people shall be summed together in a scale of 100. And if a nation, then the grades of the cities and hamlets and people of isolation shall be summed together in a scale of 100. And if half the people are above grade 50 and half below 50, the grade of that people shall be 50. If 1/4 only, then the grade of that people shall be 25. You look so cute, girl. Verse 8, on the basis of individual grades shall be the grades of a city and a nation, and the behavior of a city. Put this in the freezer? Yes, put it in the freezer. And the behavior of a city or nation shall be graded in the same way, after the manner of an individual. A certain nation built almshouses and asylums sufficient for the needy, and by its tyranny made an equal number of needy ones. That nation raised not its grade for the good it had done. Another nation built no almshouses, but by its wholesome laws there were none needed. That nation raised its grade manyfold. And yet another nation maintained a standing army in order to maintain itself. That nation stood grade 1 only. The place of this last nation in entrance into the S world shall be grade 1, which is the animal region which is on the earth. Sheesh. Whoso dwelleth in such a land, though he have a good individual grade, shall suffer deduction in the ratio of the grades of different nations of the earth. But whoso dwelleth in a nation high in grade shall be ascended in his own individual grade. As these grades are on earth, so they correspond in the heavens thereof. And after correspond, it's reference number 14. And that 14 at the bottom says, so have I made them in the heavens. I'll read the whole verse again. Verse 16, page 673. As these grades are on earth, so they correspond in the heavens thereof. In all cases, depending on what one doeth for the resurrection of others. I read that too slow. Let me read it again so it don't sound so spaced out. As these grades are on earth, so they correspond in the heavens thereof. In all cases, depending on what one doeth for the resurrection of others. If a city or nation or a kingdom in heaven do unto others in resurrection, then it shall be credited accordingly. After credited is reference number 15, and 15 says,
Stop trying to hit me. Yeah,
you know better. Don't take that food upstairs. Stop it, y'all.
Don't punch me.
Y'all stop it. Josiah, leave her alone. Quit shaking that bag of chips, girl. Verse 16. Go open that over there. Hurry up. Okay. Verse 17. If a city or a nation or a kingdom in heaven do unto others in resurrection, then it shall be credited accordingly. But if there be no gain in the good that any of these do, they shall receive no grade. But if they increase in raising individual grade, then are such cities and nations rising in grade. Consider thy nation, O man, one generation with another. And as the relative proportion of individual grades rise or fall, so shalt thou determine whether thy nation is ascending or falling in grade. Number its paupers and criminals as to increase or decrease. Consider not its wealth, nor its ships, nor its armies, nor its great buildings. These altogether are only one grade, and are of no value as to the spiritual grade of its people. For the strength and life of thy nation depend upon its spiritual grade. Pursue this, and thou shalt prophesy truly as to the growth or the downfall of a nation. Pursue this also with regard to the nations of the earth, and thou shalt determine the relative place of thine own nation in the S world. That's good. Turn that down, Bella. Where we at? 57 minutes? Chapter 10. Okay, let's read like two more chapters. There's two more chapters and we're going to pause. Okay, chapter 10. Thou art remembered, O man, by thy God, and admonished and instructed for thy soul's sake, that thou mayest become a glory to thy Creator and to thyself. Hear then thy responsibility and the extent thereof, and consider the magnitude of thine own grade on heaven and in. I'm sorry. Let me read it over. Hear then thy responsibility and the extent thereof, and consider the magnitude of thine own grade on earth and in heaven, which is in proportion to the lower and the distance of thy reach, which I have also graded unto all men, on earth and in heaven. If thy Creator give thee strength to carry 4 men on thy back, and thou would carry but one, thou shalt be 1/4 grade. But if thou carriest the whole 4, thou shalt be full grade. One man hath wherewithal to feed 1 man, another hath sufficient for 1,000, and another for 100,000. These are the distances of the reach and power of these men, which is the extent beyond which nothing more can be extracted of them on earth or in heaven. Yet, when they have all fulfilled these to the utmost, they shall be therein only equal in grade. Let me read that again. Yet, when they have all fulfilled these to the utmost, they shall be therein only equal in grade. It still sounded wrong to me. Let me go back. One man hath wherewithal to feed 1 man, and another hath sufficient for 1,000, and another for 100,000. These are the distances of the reach and power of these men, which is the extent beyond which nothing more can be extracted of them on earth or in heaven. Okay. Yet, when they have fulfilled these to the utmost, they shall be therein only equal. There shall keep screwing up verse 6. Yet, when they have all fulfilled these to the utmost, they shall be therein only equal in grade. But if they fail in their parts, the responsibility of one shall be 100,000, and another shall be 10,000. Excuse me. And another shall be 10,000, and the least shall be only one. These are the debts men owe the people of the nation, the city, and the hamlet. Consider therefore the darkness of the people of thy nation, the poverty and the crime, and judge thyself as to thine own responsibility. And this rule shall apply both on earth and in heaven. And thy grade of responsibility in heaven shall begin, even in the same place thou established it on the earth. Wherein thou wert short, thou shalt labor. Wherein thou didst fulfill, thou shalt rejoice and be without compunctions. Also shall this rule be with the king and queen and emperor and all rulers who have means and power, and the responsibility shall extend to all the people of the kingdom or empire. Nor shall this responsibility be escaped by death, but the bondage in heaven shall be according to the avoidance of the trust imposed. Wow. Consider then what thou shalt be encumbered with in the S world. Read this again. Some people like to, and not, this is not to sound insensitive by any means, but some people think it's better if they just end it here, not realizing that's going to follow them into the next world, right? And so I'm glad these teachings are rising back to the surface where we can understand more about the spiritual realm and how our lives are affected by it, and what we do here will affect what happens to us when we're fully born there, right? None of this, we get away from nothing, right? Hold on. Let me go back to 10. Also shall this rule be with the king and queen and emperor and all rulers who have means and power, and the responsibility shall extend to all the people of the kingdom or empire. Nor shall this responsibility be escaped by death, but the bondage in heaven shall be according to the avoidance of the trust imposed. Consider then what thou shalt be encumbered with in the S world. Meaning, think about what you do here, because what you do here will follow you there. So think about what you're going to be when you get there, right? And fix it here now. Verse 13, page 674. Pursue this philosophy. Yes.
What green and blue mixed out look like?
What does green and blue mixed together look like? Right off the top of my head, says I don't know.
Red.
Maybe red? I don't know. I don't know. I would need to actually mix it to tell you. Could be purple. I don't know. I don't know. Verse 13. Pursue this philosophy, and thou shalt determine what shall be the labor of the king and the queen and the great ruler after they have died and entered the S world. Find the grade of their respective dominions, and thou shalt determine by the ascension thereof the duration of their bondage in the first resurrection, whether it be 50 years or 500 years. Oh, snap. Well, yeah. Okay, so you know how, at least this is what I'm just now understanding. So you know how I was joking around. Clearly, everything is probably can be fully calculated, right? You know how when people end up in Hada, church calls it hell, right? When you or it's the first resurrection, it's there, right above the earth. When you find yourself there, I guess how long you're there will be determined by other means. Other means of, I don't know. It'll be determined by not only what you did, but who you also affected, and if you were in any type of leadership, rulership whatsoever. Remember, you can't rise higher, to all those who were under you are raised to your grade, and you all rise together. So, yeah, for those that lead, I'm thinking your time in Hada is going to be a whole lot longer, because most of them end up in knots anyway, right? So not only do you have to be restored from the state of delusion, from the knot, but after you're restored, then you have to go back, and all them people that held you in the knot, you have to restore them. You got a lot of work ahead of you. So the people who weren't in positions of leadership, it looks like they may make it out of those realms a whole lot faster than those who are in leadership, because it's calculated by every single one, every single person that was under your command. Let me see. Consider then what thou shalt be encumbered with in the S world. Pursue this philosophy, and thou shalt determine what shall be the labor of the king and the queen and the great ruler, and after they have died and entered the S world. Find the grade of their respective dominions, and thou shalt determine by the ascension thereof, the duration of their bondage in the first resurrection, whether it be 50 years or 500 years. But if such emperors' dominions be in declension, Bella, hold on, pause, sis. I love it. When I'm sitting here, you see me live reading, at least say, excuse me, mother, I have a question. Something like that, right? Don't just rudely just bust him like, Mom, look at this. Don't do that. That's rude, okay? Or like hold up a finger or something, or wave like, excuse me, Mom, I have a question. Okay? Don't be rude, sis. You and your brethren. Verse 15. Let me go back to 14. Page 674. Find the grade of their respective dominions, and thou shalt determine by the ascension thereof the duration of their bondage in the first resurrection, whether it be 50 years or 500 years. But if such emperors' dominions be in declension instead of resurrection, then on his entrance into heaven, he shall be at the mercy of the spirits of his kingdom, who shall be in wait for him, and he shall not escape them. Some other heavenly kingdom shall deliver them. Otherwise, they fall into anarchy and madness. And after madness, it has hell. All right, last chapter for today, y'all. Chapter 11, we're on page 674. Remember thy Creator and the comprehension of his kingdoms, and be considerate of the words of thy God. All men profess to desire resurrection. They hope to ascend to exalted heavenly spheres, yet many will not even try to exalt themselves. One saith in one breath, to not eat flesh of anything created alive is the highest. And at the beginning of verse 4, after one, is actually reference number 16. And 16 says he. One saith or he saith. I'll read it again. Verse 6. One said, one, I'm sorry. Not verse 6. Verse 4, I'm sorry. Verse 4. One saith in one breath, to not eat the flesh of anything created alive is the highest. But straightway he feasteth on fish and flesh. And after flesh, after and is reference number 17. 17 says, he filleth his belly with flesh. One saith in one breath, to not eat the flesh of anything created alive is the highest, but straightway he feasteth on fish and flesh. One saith, and after we're on verse 6, and after one here, it has reference number 16, which is the same thing, he. They interchanging one and he. One saith or he saith. One saith, to return good for evil is the highest, but he doeth evil even before the sound of his voice is hushed. Boy, you lying, you wouldn't even close your mouth all the way yet. Well, I love this. Look, one saith, to return good for evil is the highest, but he doeth evil before the sound of his voice is hushed. And yet he will find fault with his creator. If holy, angels promise him not a high seat in heaven. And there are others who constantly profess to have the higher light, but they go about tattling and making evil remarks of their neighbors. Yet many of these do good unto others, giving to the helpless. Verily are they both rising and falling in regard to the resurrection. The measure of the grade of such shall be by weighing the whole behavior as to its results in the community where he abideth. Let me read that again. The measure of the grade of such shall be by weighing the whole behavior as to its result in the community where he abideth. And this rule shall apply both on earth and in heaven to all such people. That's good. Let me read that again. Go back to 9. Okay. I know what they're saying, at least in my understanding. Okay, those who are talking about how can I put this? Let's see how your advice is working for you, right? Okay, that's what I get from this. Okay, you telling us to do this. Are you applying that to your life? Let's see how it's working for you. Let's go to your community and see if you apply. Let's see how well that's working there. All right. Verse 9, chapter 11. page 674. And there are others who constantly profess to have the higher light, but they go about tattling and making evil remarks of their neighbors. Yet many of these do good unto others, giving to the helpless, verily are both rising and falling in regard to the resurrection. The measure of the grade of such shall be by weighing the whole behavior as to its result in the community where he abideth. And this rule shall apply both on earth and in heaven to all such people. There are men who do great good unto others and are talented with all, but who are great liars and much prone to exaggeration, so that their good works are outbalanced by the shame of their tongues. Oh my goodness. Highlight that or underline it, asterisk or something. Pay attention, y'all. Verse 13, the grade of resurrection of such shall not be modified or benefited but little by their good works, but they shall be weighed as to such evil habit, whether it be increasing or decreasing, and the grade of such man shall be accordingly, and shall come under the rank of spiritual disease. Dang. Because it will be entailed upon them into the S world and shut them out from the grade which they manifest. Let me read that verse again. 13. The grade of resurrection of such of what? People that exaggerate a lot. I know I tell stories and I exaggerate, but when I exaggerate, I tend to come back and say, now that's a little bit of exaggeration. It wasn't 100 people, but it was really just 3, right? That's a part of my whole storytelling, right? But okay, I even gotta watch myself when I tell my stories, right? Listen, hold on. The grade of resurrection of such shall not, let me go back up. Let me see. 12. There are men who do great good unto others and are talented with all, but who are great liars and much prone to exaggeration, so that their good works are outbalanced by the shame of their tongues. The grade of resurrection of such shall not be modified or benefited but little by their good works, but they shall be weighed as to such evil habit, whether it be increasing or decreasing, and the grade of such man shall be accordingly, and shall come under the rank of spiritual disease, because it will be entailed upon them into the S world and shut them out from the grade which they manifested. Wow. When thou searchest for the grade of a city, therefore all such persons shall stand as grade 1. There be some who say, I care not for the spiritual man nor the S world. One world at a time is sufficient for me. And they may be good as to the way of the city, contributing alms to the helpless and visiting the sick. Nevertheless, they utter truthfully their own resurrection, which shall stand grade 1. There is no crime in them, but an unfortunate imbecility of spirit. Wow. Listen. And after unfortunate is reference number 18, a misfortunate imbecility or imbecile. Like, you are really ignorant for that. Like, you got all this opportunity to grow, but you're going to choose like not to, and just one. You have the capacity and wherewithal to multitask, but you choose not to, just to do this one thing. And it said, look, there is no crime in them, but an unfortunate imbecility of spirit. When such persons die, their knowledge for the most part dieth with them, and they enter the S world even as if they had died in infancy. Wow. And this reminds me of the scripture in the New Testament that the of the talents, right? The master gave one to one. He gave according to their several ability, right? Okay, you got the ability to handle just one, so you get one. You got the ability to juggle two. You, my G, you a little special. You about that life. You can juggle 10, like you can multitask like none other, right? Listen, mind you, the one that got the most could multitask like none other, right? And so you got the one. Now, mind you, what the master had given them he gave them something that could turn into it was like a investment, right? All investments should be able to multiply. He gave them something with the seed and ability to multiply and reproduce more than just the single seed or the 2 seeds or the 10 seeds that he gave you, right? So remember the story? The one that had 2 doubled it, got 4. The one that had 10 like doubled it, tripled it, got this outrageous. That's a look, that's a little bit exaggeration here, right? But y'all get the point. Y'all get the point, right? And the one who had 1 was like, Master, I know you're a hard man, and I was afraid. So I took my seed and I buried it in the ground. And now that you're back, here you go. Take what's yours. And he said he was so pissed with that servant. He said, you could have at least took this and put it in the bank and let it accumulate a little bit of interest. And he called him wicked. Like, you was like, okay, well, shoot, he gave you it just like you gave it to him. But seeds aren't meant to be given back as seeds. They're meant to be given back as fruits to feed a multitude, right? And that's what was wicked in all of that. Like, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. I gave you something that of its own nature could reproduce if you just put it in the right environment. All you had to do was take it and put it in the right environment. And then because of what it is, it would draw the interest onto it. But you didn't even do that. Like, you didn't even leave out of the house. All you had to do was leave out the house, right? You didn't even do that. And that's what was wicked, right? Look. Verse 17 says, this is no crime in them, but an unfortunate imbecility of spirit. When such persons die, their knowledge, for the most part, dieth with them, and they enter the S world even as if they had died in infancy. They shall stand grade 1, because owing to their weakness of spirit, they must need be habited on earth for many years. There be others who are forever talking of heaven and consulting the spirits of the dead, who are nevertheless low as to good works and low in holiness of heart. These shall be graded the same as liars and hypocrites. For in prophecy, and after prophecy is the word calculations, right? That's what true prophecy is, the ability to calculate things that are coming, things that have passed based on the mathematics of the creator, right? You got to learn. Y'all talking about mathematics. What about the math of the creator, right? You can't compare nothing to it. For in prophecy or calculations, thou shalt estimate the sum of all the virtues and vices of thyself and of thy neighbor and of the whole city or state or even the world, and accredit the grade in ascension or declension, and thou shalt compare one generation with another as to the increase or decrease of its spirituality, and thou shalt know of a truth the standing of the whole world. And from this thou shalt also determine the time when man came on earth, how long the race will survive and bring forth, and the time he shall become extinct as to the earth. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of our reading for today. The end of chapter 11, page 675. All right, y'all. Hold on, I missed something. Hold on. What Selah said. Hold on, I gotta go back. Okay, talking about the grades. Go back. Please. Talking about Popo. Let's go back up. Okay. Selah said, the grades are everything. Tabitha said, that is so true, Brother Selah. It took me a while to understand that. And Set Apart said, how would you classify? Oh, that's okay. That's what a question. How would you classify a police department? Cosmon Cal said, the grades, pointing up. Okay. Tabitha, if the police department is doing just things, I believe their grades can be high. Years ago in my country, Trinidad, street police carried only a baton, not a gun. Set Apart said, since some carry weapons, would they be considered a standing army by definition? And Tabitha said, if we the people becomes obedient to the Creator, there will be no need for a standing army. The soldiers will have to turn their weapons into working tools, as the Bible declares. Dark night, shalom, shalom. Let's see. Selah said, police is a standing army, grade 1. Set apart. That's what I kind of thought. Then Selah said, 21, verse 21. Okay, that's 21 of chapter 9, which is on page 673. Consider not its wealth, nor its ships, nor its armies, nor its great buildings. These altogether are only one grade and are of no value as to the spiritual grade of its people, but they can still rise in grade. Okay, and Tabitha said, Brother Selah, how can the police department rise in their grades? Set apart said that would be a good lesson. It really would. Nazarene, faith and shalom, family. Okay. Then Selah said, based off individual grades of doing good works, it's cops that help the community and help others. And Selah said it's called struggling in the grades as well. Yeah. Tabitha said, I agree, Brother Selah, with that answer. Okay. Then Tabitha said, there are some police officers and soldiers there are some police officers and soldiers never killed anyone while on duty. Okay, yeah, but that's good. That's good. Look, I'm gonna start looking at my city. I'm gonna try and start grading my city based on all this stuff that we're learning. But shoot, I mean, the little stuff that I can test within my own household, I'm like, yo, that's right on point. Okay, it gets kind of fun as we begin to go outside of the family and just observe and look and try to calculate. We should all do that. We should try to figure out the grade of our cities that we live in. I mean, we got to get out and do a little footwork, look and see what's going on in the government, what has become of their laws and stuff that they done put in place. Has it helped the people rise, or has it helped the city to decline, right? Do we have certain parts of the cities that nobody don't like to go to? Like when I lived like here in the Hampton Roads area, they call the whole city of Newport News bad news. Like, oh, you live in bad news? Look, don't classify me with like don't classify, because we don't live down there. We do not live down there. We live up here by Fort Eustis. We don't even drive down there. Like if you got places where people like we don't go down there, then we got a problem as a city, because nobody should be thinking, oh no, we don't go down there, right? Look like trash, and like it's like the mayor and everybody done forgot this portion of the city. And then when we tired of looking at it, we just uproot all the people, tear it down, and we displace them. They don't know where they're going. Like we really have problems in our city, right? They cannot be good for our spiritual grade overall for our city, right? And just like the individual grades make up like the entire grade of the household, the grades of the cities make up the grade of the state, and the grade of the state makes up the grade of the the country. The grades of the states make up the grade of the country. It's the next level up, right? But everything start back at home. So if we get the family under control, everything can grow and we can rise and grade, right? So we got to do what we can do our part. A lot of time, most of what we can handle, everything within our reach, is our own household and our business, maybe where we fellowship, go to school, work at, everything within our reach, right? This is really good. I like this. Okay, but we're gonna pause right here, y'all, at the end of chapter 11 on page 675. Thank y'all for hanging out. Y'all, it is Friday, September the 30th, 2022, day 226 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets under the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1244. And like I just said in Oahspe, we're reading still the book of Judgment, and we read pages 672 to page 675, which was chapters 7 to 11. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. Love y'all. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Elijah. Shalom, brother. He said social media is keeping the youth in trouble too. Yeah. Oh my goodness. American assistant in natural desires around the world when they occur, national service done unto others. What? I think I'm understanding that wrong. America. Oh, I think I know what you said. Okay, so when America assists in natural disasters around the world, when they occur, that's national. Okay, I get it. That's national service done unto others, right? Okay, America kind of good at that, right? We got people. Oh, we want to help over here, but a lot of times it's like, doesn't that kind of um if we look at it, we quick to help everybody else, but sometimes it's like we don't even try to take care of the natural disasters in our own country. Doesn't that count against us? Always ready to go out and help other countries, but America, its youth is like that can't be good for us. That gotta kind of wash out the good we be doing for other countries while we completely ignoring like the homeless and stuff here, right? I don't know. That from what I'm reading, that's gonna knock us down a couple grades. Even though we did all these good works, but you didn't even take care of your own household. Yeah, we need to subtract from your grade because this should come first, right? Because when I like Virginia Beach says here is stronger together, right? Because if we made sure our whole house was sound, or the whole United States, America, right? If we made sure different places here we got this under control and it was strong, we could be stronger together and we would be a more powerful force when we go out and help others, right? And the people could come back and they wouldn't find skeletons in our closet over here, right? People like, America coming over here, but y'all got this going on over there. Now that's a Western problem over there. Don't bring y'all problems over here, right? It can't, I don't know. We all grown. Yeah. Struggling in the grades, the ups and downs. Yeah. Okay, I gotta get what you mean by that. Yeah, that's definitely struggling in the grades. Okay. Right. Help a country, then attack another. Yeah. Love you too, Shebrew. All right, beautiful people. Perfect time. And Josiah, come on in this. You asked today. All right, y'all. But we out of here. Gotta go. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
Mother.
You call me mother too?
Yeah.
What, girl?